Hello, and welcome to a Midwestern Geek in Cali. I'm your host, Dan Stafford, and on this show, we talk about science, technology, science fiction, and all kinds of interesting local and regional stuff out here in California. I'd like to thank you all for listening, and let's get into the deep stuff. So it's Thursday, March 23rd, 2017. This is Midwestern Geek in Cali. Dan Stafford speaking. I've got a few things that I want to talk about today. The first thing is how I got the name for my recording studio, which is actually my garage. I mean, let's be honest, I'm a podcast and a new one at that. But I love my little space here, and I came up for the name because I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. Most Doctor Who fans out there are going to know that right from the name itself. I call my little area here 42 Tardis Way. The number 42 is a reference to Douglas Adams' famous book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where he calls that the answer to life, the universe, and everything. In that book, the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. So there you go. It's sci-fi humor, and that number is famous worldwide. That book's been around for a long time. You'll see it Easter egged in a lot of sci-fi shows. For example, Fox Mulder in the X-Files. He lived in apartment 42 on that show. I always love that little fact. There's many, many other instances of the number 42 popping up in sci-fi shows, and if you look close, you'll see it. TARDIS Way, well, I'm a Doctor Who fan. I love Doctor Who, especially the newer episodes. By the way, Douglas Adams, the author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, he wrote some of the early episodes of Doctor Who, if I recall, from the very early show. So I'm a Doctor Who fan, loved it, and I came in here and I kind of wanted to make my garage, which was going to be my workspace for my new business, look like the inside of the TARDIS. I didn't quite accomplish that. That's a lot to do for a garage, it really is. But I did custom build the shelving unit in here myself from my own design from scratch. I also built my workbench in here myself, designed from scratch. Both of them are built very heavy out of 5/8 plywood and 4x4 and 2x4 construction. The workbench is topped with stainless steel, which is run to the ground rod in the house so that it will be safe place to work on computers where static is a concern. The top is grounded, and I can run a grounding strap anytime I want. I've got a nice little ground lug over there in the corner. I've got a vise mounted on the bench, as I mentioned before, and it's mounted with some very heavy bolts into solid 4x4 material. The shelving unit is all, very, very, very solidly constructed, can hold a lot of weight, and everything's anchored to the walls because, well, we're in California and you don't want to mess with that. And everything is painted blue like the 1950s police public call box from Britain that the TARDIS it uses as a disguise for itself. Well, in the show, the TARDIS has a cloaking device that can make it look like ordinary everyday objects. And it got stuck in the 1950s blue and black police public call box. So, and of course, the TARDIS is bigger on the inside. I can't say that about my garage. That would be really tough to pull off, but wouldn't I love that? So everything is themed in the colors of the TARDIS, and most of it is TARDIS blue. that nice, deep, almost royal blue color. And I even have a police public call box sign up there on the wall. Of course, lots of sci-fi lighting and memorabilia in here. It's a very, very fun place to work. And that's it. 42 Tardis Way is to me like the ultimate sci-fi address. I don't think you could get a street address that was any cooler unless it was legitimately that street address for actually receiving your mail. But that's my little studio, 42 Tardis Way, and I'm going to geek rock that forever. Anyway, so I discovered a new podcast today that I really am enjoying, and it's hosted by a gal named Jennifer Crawford. Sorry, Jennifer Crawford, and it is called Podcasting Smarter. Now, Jennifer also does another one called, let's see, Jellyvision, which is another show. I haven't really listened to that one. I discovered her through Podcasting Smarter on the same podcast hosting service I use, Podbean, which has a really great app for your smartphone. I'm really enjoying Podbean. It's a really reasonable and comprehensive and pretty good way to get into doing podcasting. Podcasting Smarter, she tends to talk to other podcasters, interview them as guests. And she got a gal from Double X Will Travel, which is a travel podcast, especially relating to foreign travel for women traveling by themselves. Tips, tricks, places, places to go, places not, things to do, not to do, and a lot of stuff that would take the kind of stigma and fear out of women traveling alone internationally. So I really enjoyed that show. It was timely. I have a friend. Hi, Christy. If you end up hearing this, Christy Johnson runs Escapes and Getaways here in Southern California, which is a travel agency. And I forwarded that episode over to Christy because I thought that that particular travel podcast would be a really good one for her to check out and listen to. And Christy's a great travel agent. She's helped me and several other members of our network group out. Anyway, so back to podcasting smarter. I also listened to their very first episode because I discovered the other one about travel first. And it's with a fellow who runs Be Our Guest, which is a podcast on getting the most out of your visit to Walt Disney World or the Disney cruise. So it's a really, really cool podcast. It talks a lot about people skills and technology involved in podcasting and how to do a better job of podcasting. It's really, really nice. So, of course, I'm sipping coffee, the ultimate geek fuel. While I'm on the subject of coffee, I love to use an old school percolator, and I happen to have an antique British coffee mill that's hand cranked here in my garage. I grind a pound of it every week and a half or so, and I do a pot of percolator coffee with Farberware Millennium 12 cup percolator pretty much every day. It makes nice, strong coffee, highly approved for geeks. It's very similar to French press, but much more old school. We'll get off that subject, but any geek worth their salt is probably pretty familiar with coffee because of working late at night trying to figure out a tech bug. And myself spending 21 and a half years in telecommunications, and a good 17 of those years are nearly working night shift and overnight maintenance and stuff like that. Coffee was a must. Good coffee is even more of a must because if you drink much coffee, you need it to be good, right? Anyway, so podcasting smarter. Shout out to Jennifer Crawford. Sorry, I'm looking at the URL here for Podcasting Smarter, and I'm kind of looking at the first season page, so I need to get back. And the URL for this podcast is just podcast.podbean.com. Again, that's podcast.podbean.com. That takes you right to podcasting smarter. Very good. Anyway, I'm liking that. The only issue I have right now with Podbean is that I'm having a difficult. Now I'm a web guy. I do web design, and I'm having a difficult time on the desktop site finding where I can comment and like various episodes. And in the mobile Podbean app, it's cake. I mean, it's very easy to leave comments or likes on episodes and let people know that you listened and what you thought about their podcast. And I did that for Jennifer, but I'm listening on a desktop, and I had to go back to um, my mobile app and find that episode and like them and leave some feedback. So Jennifer, if you ever hear this one, love the podcast, and I'll be listening to the rest of the episodes you've got up. I think you've got what, like 3 seasons? You're yeah, a little bit into the 1 episode into season 3. Nice. A lot of podcasts never get that far. Anyway, so let's go on to the next thing I want to talk about. I've got a guest coming up next month. I'm still waiting on the second headset to come in. It's going to be coming in somewhere in between the 28th and the 31st of the month. And then I'll be testing out some software to actually be able to run 2 headsets on the same PC into Audacity, which is what I use to record my podcast. We'll be talking about that. While I'm on the subject of headsets, I wanted to get back. So in a prior episode, episode 2, I believe it was, I was talking about this headset that I had gotten with my desktop computer and never tried, and I was calling it the Blackwing headset. Oops, no, that's not. It's the Plantronics Blackwire C320-M headset. Again, that's Plantronics Blackwire C320-M headset. It's a USB headset. It has inline mute, volume, and call button on it, and it has active noise canceling, and it goes into a USB port, so it's digital from the get-go, which is really nice. I was recording my podcast earlier with an inline microphone from back in like 2000 or something like that. And while it did a credible job, it definitely gave me some weird kind of effect in the background and stuff. And the Blackwire has been wonderful. It's a lot cleaner and clearer and crisper, and I'm really liking it. So anyway, again, Plantronics Blackwire C320M headset. I found it on second one on Amazon for $42. There you go, 42, $42.40. Gotta love it. All right, so I'm hoping they'll have the second one up and running and tested before Dale gets to working with me on the podcast. Dale is actually a walking tour guide in Temecula. He runs his own walking tour business, and I'm going to take a quick look and Google him up because I don't have his website handy right now. Sorry about the keyboard noise there, but we got to do what we got to do, right? So Dale, he was the one who I first met Dale when we did a walking tour of Old Town Temecula. There's a little small history museum down there in Temecula, and the walking tour starts there, and Dale's your guide, and he goes through and tells like a lot of the history of Temecula and some of the buildings down there and their historical reference and that type of thing. Temecula is a really cool town. If you've never been here, their downtown area is kind of a little bit old west meets modern day. It's intentionally left with a lot of the historic buildings intact. It's actually a couple of older sci-fi TV series have been shot down there too, or at least some episodes. And there's a lot of cool history about Temecula. Temecula is in wine country in Southern California. It's very centrally located. We're about an hour or so from San Diego, an hour from Palm Springs, hour and a half from LA. We're actually only 15 miles or so from the Pacific Ocean, but there's a small old mountain range called the Santa Ana Mountains between us and the Pacific here. So we're actually high desert in the inland valley. And we have a real interesting climate here. It's called the Mediterranean climate, and Temecula is kind of at the north end of where that extends to. So it's really, really wonderful here. Even when it gets hot, it's only for 3 or 4 hours during the day. We get a really stiff breeze in the summer. Actually, most of the year, right about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And as hot as it gets, it drops 20 degrees in 2 hours usually. And it gets down, even in the July and August, it'll get down into the 50s and 60s overnight here. So you start off, the morning's cool, the sun comes up, it climbs fast. You might hit 95 or 105 by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then 2:30, 3 o'clock, the breeze comes up from the Pacific and it just starts cooling down, and within a couple hours you're back down in the like 80 something range, and by like 9 o'clock at night it's nice and cool and comfy out, and it's really, really nice. So it's a great place to live. There's about 160 wineries starting 2 miles from my front door, so it's wine country here. There's a lot of other things. I think we have the largest casino in California here, which I'm not a gambler, so that part's not really my thing, but I love the shows that we get there. So it's a really nice town. Temecula is about 100,000. Our city next door is Murrieta. That's about another 100,000. If you add up all the other little towns like Lake Elsinore, Wildemar, Hemet, Fallbrook, Rainbow, Bonsall, and several others, Winchester, quite a few other ones that are smaller around here. I think we get up to around 440,000 people in this little area. So it's very nice. Traffic is generally decent unless you're trying to go south on the interstate in the morning or north on the interstate in the afternoon and evening. Now, it's a very nice place to be, especially having come from being for quite a few years in almost 2 decades in the Chicago area. It reminds me a little bit more of Madison in the 1970s, and by that I mean Madison, Wisconsin. I went to high school there in the late 1970s. I'm originally from a little town in southern Wisconsin called Beloit, actually. I've been a geek forever, so that's why it's Midwest Geek in Cali. I'm a cheesehead geeking out in California. Wow, imagine that. All right, so Dale, getting back to Dale here. Dale runs a company called Old Town Temecula Candlelight Walking Tours. He has got stories about this area that are kind of blow your mind cool. I saw him speak on some stuff over at the public library on Pava Road, and it is, he just has some really, really awesome and amazing stories. He's been taking some walking tours around other parts of the country recently, where he was actually being guided on a walking tour. I've been following him a little bit on Facebook. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So Dale said he would come on the podcast next month, and I'm going to see if I can get a couple of good stories out of him for you. I'm looking forward to being able to have more than just me on this podcast, because obviously there's a very different dynamic when there's two people and there's back and forth and give and take. And, I don't talk slow. I get more into my Midwestern, kind of, we talk a little faster in the Midwest usually than you do out here in California. I'm really looking forward to this. I think we'll get a really good episode out of that. And I think, it'll be good for Dale too. So I'm looking way forward to it. And let's see. Oh, I wanted to do a little tech tip for a day. I do Windows computer repair and coaching, and I do WordPress websites and social media and that type of stuff, and now podcasting, which I love, by the way. one of my little tech tips that I like to give out, back when I was working in telecom, I had lots of late nights. I had a definite need to charge my phone fairly often because I could be on a conference call trying to fix a down high-speed fiber route cross country for several hours at a crack, or working on a conference bridge platform that was down, or big voice switches that did millions of calls a day that were in trouble and having problems. And so I would be on the phone with people, second level, third level support type people, and all kinds of things for hours at a time. So I learned early to use a Bluetooth headset so that I could find a spot in some of these rooms full of wires and metal where I had a decent cell signal and still be able to walk around and talk, because I could just plant my phone and walk and talk with a Bluetooth headset on. So I found one Plantronics M50. It has like 11-hour talk time on the headset. That was amazing to me, and very valuable as a tech. But also, I had to keep a phone charger on me, for long periods. I always had to have a phone charger because I could be on a conference call for several hours talking, and my phone's about to die on a battery, and we're not really haven't really gotten to the root of the problem and fixed it yet, and I need to stay on this conference call. So I would carry a charger cable and a charger with me in my pocket all the time just because I had to have it available. Well, I can't tell you, several times I broke the charger cable just from having it in my pocket. It would just, the wires inside the thing would just get broken. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, I go to charge my phone, and it's like going in and out of charge rapidly or stuff because of busted wire inside the insulation. Well, I found a solution. I liked Altoids, and Altoids come in a tin, and it's a pocket-sized tin. So I took a piece of Velcro tie wrap, Velcroed the cord into a small enough bundle, popped it inside the Altoids tin, and stuck that in my pocket. And my next cord after that lasted me for, I want to say, a year and a half before anything went wrong with it. That's the cord before the one I have now, and I've had this cord in my pocket for almost 2 years now. So if you want, and plus the Altoids tin in your pocket, it can't open up, and it also is good for carrying other, little small things. I keep a charger for my Bluetooth charger cable for my Bluetooth headset, the charger cable for my phone, and I also keep an eighth inch male to male cable for being able to go from the headset jack on my phone to the aux jack on my car stereo so that I can listen to podcasts while I'm driving. And especially that was important back in the Midwest because I was commuting almost pretty much an hour one way to and from work. So tech tip of the day, if you need to carry a phone cable, a phone charger cable around in your pocket or in your purse, put it in an Altoids tin and wrap it up and put it in there, and that'll protect it and keep it from getting broken. So I think that's about all I have for today. I'm kind of getting a little talked out here at the moment, running this thing by myself, but I'm hopefully able to help you guys and give you some interesting stuff. And oh, there's one other thing I want to talk about too. Now, I'm a geek. You know that. Obviously, the podcast title, Midwest Geek in Cali, right? I'm also 6'6" and 340 pounds. I'm a big dude. And I love me some graphic t-shirts. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and blue jeans and t-shirts are the geek rule. Yeah, I mean, my work uniform is pretty much 1980s geek, early 1980s geek at that. I love it. I have graphic tees coming out my ears, but if I go to like something like Comic-Con, there used to be still is actually. There's a show called C2E2 in Chicago. It's very similar to Comic-Con, not anywhere near as expensive to go to. Hint, hint, Comic-Con. but it is in a huge conference center, usually called McCormick Place in downtown Chicago. And the first year I went, 2012, they had collector's T-shirt. It had a really cool drawing of Iron Man on the front, and then the C2E2 and year logos on the sleeves, and the shirts are replaceable. However, it did not come in a 2XLT for tall. 6'6", guys. I have a long torso. All right. And I'm a tech guy, a tech geek, and not, well, don't want to offend plumbers, but when I wear some of those just 2X shirts, if I have to lean over and grab a cable that's down by the floor, I kind of look like I do plumbing for a living, just saying. So I went to a place called Lewis Cleaners. I was looking for a nice cleaners to do some of a few Hawaiian shirts that I have and other minor repairs and alterations type things. I asked them if they could, I've had this idea for a while now, if they could add some fabric from another t-shirt to the bottom, like chop a ring off of another t-shirt and then sew it around the bottom of the 2X shirts to extend it out like 5 or 6 inches and make it into a 2XLT. And they said they could. So I just dropped off my C2E2 shirt, one from the Alien Fresh Jerky up in Baker, California. We passed through there on the way and stopped in that shop, and it is a blast if you're a geek. It's so fun. They have aliens sitting on the building, on the sign. They have UFOs out in the parking lot. They have aliens everywhere inside the store. You got to see it if you're going through Baker, California. Anyways, it's a must-stop place, but I just stopped off at Lewis Cleaners in Temecula and talked to Justin, and he is going to get about 5 shirts done, no, 4 shirts done for me that are all 2X graphic tees that are kind of special to me for various reasons, and turn them into 2XLTs for me. He's going to do that, so this is my trial run. I'm kind of taking my shirt life in my hands with some of these shirts, but he assures me that they'll be able to do a good job. I got a couple of plain Jane T-shirts from DXL, the big and tall store. The ones they sell like plain T-shirts for I think $19, and then sometimes they have a buy one get one free sale going too. Anyway, those will be sacrificed to extend the T-shirts that I really love. I'll be probably talking about that in another episode as far as how it went. So, if you're a tall guy and you're into geek shirts, that was for you. Yeah, because I feel your pain, man. All right. Anyway, it's time to wrap it up for the day and geek out. This is your host, Dan Stafford, with the Midwestern Geek in Cali. And I'd like to thank you for listening and welcome you to come back anytime you'd like. You can find us again at www.singingwire.net. Thank you. Visuals created using Plane 9 Visualizer. www.plane9.com. That's PLANE 9 the number.com.